A few years ago, my plywood supplier, Maxi-Plywood, commissioned me to make some pens out of, well, plywood. They have a really interesting product they call Maxi-edge, which is a bunch of edge laminations of plywood. So rather than making it yourself, you can buy it in panel form. It is a decorative product rather than structural, but it's interesting nonetheless. I had a few of these offcuts, remnants of the pen making process left behind, and they've just been kicking around the workshop for a few years now, and I think it's now time to properly clean up the workshop, do something with them. So I'm going to turn these into more turning blanks. There'll be some patterned pen blanks, as well as some larger turning blanks for some tools. I'll show you the process I go through to turn this stuff into turning blank size. If we take a closer look at the material, you can see that I've been cutting this on a 45-degree angle. The plies all go in the one direction, and if we do a straight cross cut for our turning blanks, you can see that it's interesting, but it's not mind-bogglingly cool. By cutting it on an angle, we can do some interesting patterns. This is a sort of herringbone pattern on this blank, and you can see how much cooler that is with the plies going every which way. So the first step is to make some 45-degree cuts at the miter saw. Then those pieces can be glued up to make a more interesting pattern. Then those can be cross-cut and turned into blanks that look like that. I've jumped ahead a little bit. I've put the pen tubes in the two blanks and I've milled the ends square. This isn't really a pen turning video as such, but if you are interested in learning how to turn pens and the whole process, I've actually got a couple of videos on doing just that, where I go from preparing the blanks to turning techniques and finishing techniques. Turning plywood is much the same as turning solid wood, with a few things to just be aware of. I've found very poor luck with carbide tools with plywood. It tends to be a little bit too aggressive and can delaminate. Likewise, I found using a skew can cause the same issues, particularly on the ends when you're getting really close to the final diameter. I've had the best luck with a bowl gouge. This isn't a super high quality gouge, so something of a higher quality might fare a lot better, but I found with the extra glue in all the plywood, it's quite harsh on the edges. So the best process for me was sharpening just before I started, and then sharpening again just before I get to the final diameter, taking off maybe 1 millimeter, resulting in the least likely to chip out. So I'm really pleased with how that's come up. This shows the angled grain on one and the herringbone pattern on the other. The CA works really well on plywood because it's a mix of edge grain and end grain. Things like shallow wax or other friction polishes don't quite work as well. You really want that film finish on the plywood. I'm excited to see how the larger blank turns out. That'll be used to make an awl, and that will be in another video shortly. Now I do have a few of the herringbone blanks and of the regular angled plywood blanks. Let me know if it's something you'd be interested in buying. I don't have these up on my website or Etsy just yet, but perhaps once I've done this video, I'll get those online if there's sufficient interest. At this stage is going to be just whatever stock I have, so I need to take photos and actually see what stock I have. But I guess if there was enough demand, I could probably get some larger panels in and make some more. Plywood and the edges in particular can have quite the stigma about them. So it's interesting to see the patination and even just the regular angled grain to create something visually interesting. It reminds me quite a lot of the Japanese yosegi, I think that's how it's pronounced, patterns with essentially veneer. I'd be curious to see this used in other things, perhaps thin slices to decorate a box, maybe some dyeing and stabilization in there. Let me know if you've got any ideas and we might run with that in the future. Thanks for watching.